Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So if you remember, we were in the middle of an upgrade of a 2007 Squier Strat Affinity. I've got this guitar in pieces and we were doing an upgrade on the headstock, but now let's move on to the body. Well, I thought next I would prepare the body for the electronics that are going to go in it. And as I was looking at the shielding paint inside here, it leaves a lot to be desired. It's got a bunch of missing spots. It's kind of thin in places. If you haven't seen my quick tip video on making your own shielding paint, go check that out. But I'm going to take this and repaint the inside of this just to make it look a little bit better. Alright, in preparations for the pickguard mounting and the backplate mounting, I went ahead and did some test fitting. And when I dropped this on, obviously this is an American style where they're offset center screws, and the existing screws were straight across, so they weren't going to fit. In order to rectify that situation, I went ahead and doweled all 6 of these holes so that I can completely start over. And I went ahead and put a little touch-up paint over these too. And I'll show you the process of this on the other side because the other side actually needs it as well. And I will point out, I went ahead and put the neck screws back in and a neck plate. This neck plate is not a Squier neck plate. I went ahead and deleted the Squier logo just because I think that looks a little bit cleaner. It's just a matter of screwing those back in. Now on the other side, you can tell my shielding paint has dried here, and I did have to make a slight adjustment to the cavity. I just took a little bit of sandpaper and clearanced this out right here because the switch, when I test fit this pickguard, actually hit the bottom of the cavity. So I went ahead and bent all the contacts up on the switch, clearanced that out a little bit, touched up the shielding paint, and we're back in business. Now, the bigger issue is actually not the switch. The bigger issue is the alignment of all the pickguard holes. This is a USA or made in Mexico spec pickguard. It fits okay, at least here and here and here and here, but almost every other screw is going to need to be reset. These are close, but all this side is messed up. So what I'm going to do, if you remember the process of doweling that we used on the back of the headstock for the tuners, I'm going to do the same thing on the body, and I'm going to use the same dowel rod, 1/8 inch, the same drill bit, 1/8 inch, and we're going to just do every single one of these. Okay, now I'll just wait for all this glue to dry. I'm going to wipe off the excess, but I got to wait for the glue to set on the dowels themselves, and then I'll cut them off flush just like I did the others, put a little drop of super glue on top just like I did with the others, and then we'll be ready to re-drill when the new pickguard goes in. Now that my pickguard holes are all filled and ready for re-drilling, I can't install the pickguard just yet. What I'd like to do is place the bridge first, and that'll give me some kind of location for the pickguard. So I'm going to install this Guyker tremolo system that I got. It's really a nice looking tremolo, surprisingly, so let's do a little bit of an unboxing here. Now, Guyker parts are often found on Amazon, and these are made in China, but I was actually really surprised with the quality of this one. So to start with, this thing was only 18 bucks, and it comes with these bent steel saddles, a very thick base plate, and a full-size steel tremolo block. And this is for a 36mm height, so it fits Squiers. Comes with a really nice trem bar. Doesn't have a plastic tip, so it could be used with either a black or white scheme. And of course all the extra parts that go for installation, like springs, claws, and screws. First step in a tremolo installation is to seat the top of the unit. We've got to do that before we can put the claw and the springs in. When I'm installing this on top for the first time, I don't want to tighten the screws all the way down, so I get them really close and then back them off just a touch. I'll fine tune those once I get the springs installed, but I just want the tremolo to be able to move just slightly right now. So the Guyker tremolo comes with a copper coated claw, which I find kind of interesting actually. And it comes with screws that I consider to be kind of short for this application, but I'm hoping they're going to be okay. Let's go ahead and install the springs. So far it feels like everything fits just fine, and it's going to fit right under my cover, and that's perfect. To fine tune the screws on the front, what I do now, since the springs are pulling that base plate all the way down to the body and making it level, I'm going to go ahead and tighten all of my screws down to the face of the plate. So now they're all sitting flush. They're not overly tightened, they're just touching. And then I'm going to back them off about a quarter to a half turn. Now what that should allow me to do is pivot the tremolo. So let's test it with the arm. It's a pop-in arm, by the way, which is very convenient. Yeah, it looks like it's going to function just fine. All right, now with my tremolo set, I can place my pickguard, and not to pull a fast one on you, but I'm going to switch directions on the pickguard and the backplate. I built myself a black one, and I like the look of this one much better. I just think it fills out the color scheme that I really want much better. The cream against the red just wasn't doing it for me, and I've got another use for the cream pickguard. This pickguard is a Squier pickguard. It's also American dimensions, so it has the same issues with the holes on this side aligning. It also uses the Squier pots and the Fender tone and volume knobs. I've got a Fender 5-way switch here, and I used the Max Cheer pickups on this one. But anyway, as I was saying, now that I have the bridge placed, I can locate this pickguard exactly where I want it. So let me reset the wires on the bottom of this thing to get it to lay a little bit flatter, and then we'll start drilling. Okay, perfect. So what I really want to shoot for is an even amount of space on each side of the tremolo, and just to make sure that I have a nice gap in between the tremolo and the back of the pickguard. Right about there puts an even gap all the way around. I'm probably going to start with this hole just to make sure that it holds everything else in place. I've mentioned on my channel before the difference in the sizes of the screws for American pickguards versus what comes with some of these imported pickguards. The ones that come with these pickguards are just a little bit larger head. I don't know about the thread pitch, they might be the same, but I'm going to go ahead and use the ones that came with this pickguard. Alright, those are going to be perfect. Now everything is held in place for me to go ahead and start drilling these other holes. Okay, these last 5 holes are going to be the same. I'm going to do those off camera, and then when I come back, we'll do the jack plate. Okay, I've finished all the screws on the pickguard, and the pickguard is fully seated. And now I'm going to start on this jack plate. This is a normal Squier jack plate with a pure tone jack installed. Even though I doweled this one to re-drill it, it looks like the original screw holes were probably pretty close to where they needed to be. But that's okay, I can always put them back in there. Now when I'm doing a jack plate, I almost always will set the first screw before I put the second one in. Yeah, the holes were really close, but I'm glad that I did dowel this one because I can tell it needs to be slightly moved. Alright, now everything's placed and I've got all my screw holes, everything lines up, but you'll notice I didn't do one thing, and that was wire this pickguard in. So now I've got to take all these screws back out and do that, but I wanted to make sure that everything was in the spot it was going to be in before I did all that. So that's why we do things in that order. Well, here's a better look at the components that I actually used. Like I said, I've got these Max Cheer pickups, which are cloth wired. I've got Squier full-size pots. I've got cloth wiring otherwise, and a Fender 5-way switch. This 5-way switch is actually one of those 12 contact or half super switches, but I only use that because it's what I have on hand. And here's a better look at the pure tone jack. The pure tone jacks have multiple contacts instead of just one, so they grab the body of the cables that go in there a lot tighter. So on a Strat, you have to pass the wires from the pickguard through to the jack area, and then you've got to solder in your jack. So that's where things are right now. I've got this one wired through, and I'm just going to finish up the soldering on this one. So when the soldering's all done, you just spin your jack around, put it in place, and you want to pull the slack back through to your main cavity. So I've spun this back around and I put it in place, and something you probably noticed was the little copper tab under this. I put a little piece of copper here and a little piece of copper here to try to connect the shielding paint that's in each cavity to the actual piece that's being bolted down to them. So that's why this is here. It's to help this plate here make contact with the shielding paint. Same for this, it's to help it make contact with the pickguard. Now I've got a lug that I've added to this ground wire, and I'm going to screw it down to the cavity itself so that the electronics are 100% grounded to the shielding paint. And then this wire needs to get fed through to the tremolo cavity, and then the pickguard can get screwed back down. Now once I get all these screws back in, I'll flip the guitar over and I'll wire that extra ground wire to the tremolo claw, and that completes the grounding. Alright, now before we wrap, I just want to say, if you want to create your own loaded pickguard like I did with this one here, just go and check out my video on how to create a Stratocaster loaded pickguard. And that one uses a cream pickguard and cream pickups and pots and everything else, but it's really the same process. Alright, thank you all for following this series. I think we're really close, and the next things that I want to do are the end pins and the string trees, along with the strings and the setup. But if you want to make sure you see that next video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for hitting the like button, thanks for leaving a comment, and thanks for checking out my Amazon links, and I'll see you guys next time.